Hi everyone, it's Sonia Showalter. I've been wanting to do this for a really long time, and I'm finally able to get to do this video on the angel wings in the shadow box. So first things is, let me show you the shadow box. I've got it taken apart, but I'll show you how it's supposed to go together. It's just like a picture frame. So this particular shadow box has hinges because it's got a little window that opens. So you can do what you want and you don't have to leave it that way. You can change things out if you want to. But it comes with the back. It has built-in hangers. It's got a magnet for closure right here, a couple of magnets. But this goes on the inside, just like you would see a picture frame. You know, it's got some cardboard and etc. This has a foam, kind of a styrofoam back on it. And then this is kind of a hardboard that goes on behind the styrofoam. And it has this double hanger. I wouldn't put 2 nails in the wall. This doesn't weigh anything, so I would probably maybe, you can't move these. These are fixed permanently. They're not screws, they're little rivets. So I would just maybe, I don't know, get creative. Maybe put a little tiny bracket right across the back or a ribbon attached to the side and then have the ribbon hang from the nail. Anyway, that's just, I digress. This is how it comes. It's got this kind of a jute fabric on it. So you take it apart, and I'm not going to use this backing because even if I like the color for my project, it's not straight on the grain. So it's just crooked the way they cut it. So it's not very appealing this way. If I like the color, I would just find something similar. Linen is what I'm going for. I would use a natural color linen or something, like in my photos. I think I have a natural oatmeal linen. But for this project, I want to use white linen, and because the white kind of shows a little bit of that darker fabric in the back. Well, I started to remove it. Don't do that. It's not even worth it. You can just leave it on. And halfway through, not halfway through, but I got it going and it's like, wait a minute, I can just flip this. So instead of covering this, just flip it and cover the white part with your linen. So all I did with the linen was I pressed it. You can starch it if you want. I didn't starch it. I just misted it with water so I could get a nice smooth finish. And use this for your template and just lay it down. Make sure you're on the weave. You don't want to do what they did and cut it crooked. That just doesn't look good. I think this is my 7.1 ounce linen. This linen all comes from fabricstore.com. I'll put the link below in the description under the video. So use this as a template, but find where the grain is and stick with your grain. So what I did was just lay this down, and I don't know if you can see it, but I used a light pencil and just marked. I'm going to go ahead and cut that. Okay. So now, let me check it. And linen has a kind of little fluidity, if that's the word, to it. So you may have to just, you know, pull it into the corners gently, just so it meets up. And if that's not quite right, just try the different corners. You just want to get to the edges. You don't want to cut it bigger because then you've got to tuck everything in without it puckering and getting thick in the corners. You don't want to deal with that. So as long as you're pretty on, on the edge, you're good. This one's over the edge just a hair, but I'm not going to worry about it. If it doesn't fit in there smoothly, I'll just take it out after I glued it down and trim off wherever is causing a problem. So what I'm going to do is spray this with spray glue, which is very similar to embroidery spray adhesive. So if that's what you've got, that would work really well. The idea is don't just glue it down around the edges, because I learned this by trial and error, found out quickly that I'm just stretching it because that corner is bugging me that it seems to be short. If you only glue the edges, the wings have a weight. They're a little bit heavy. So you glue the wings down and the wings are going to pull the fabric right out of the center. So it's not going to pull the whole thing apart, but they're going to be hanging from the center. You want it to be nice and flat. So that's why the center needs to be secured with spray glue or whatever you've got handy. If you don't have that, you can use whatever glue works for you. You just don't want to soak your fabric, that's all. Okay, so I'm gonna go spray this. I'll be right back. All right, I'm back. Okay, so I've got this pretty tacky, and here's a trick I use. I just do this so the glue gets less wet and more tacky. I do it if I'm using it embroidery spray adhesive as well. It just seems to stick better if you give it a few seconds. Okay, so it's nice and tacky. So now just find the side that you think is smoother, or you might like the rough side better. And the nice thing about these adhesives is that you can reposition. Just make sure your weave isn't doing this. All right, it just needs to be nice and squared. So just manipulate it into place. That looks pretty good. Then make sure it's nice and stuck. Make sure you have clean hands if you're doing white linen, that's for sure. I didn't make sure, but I think they're good. Looks like I may have to trim a little. Let's see how it fits. Yep, that looks pretty good. All right. So what I would do at this point, you can put the wings on and then put your whole frame back together. I chose, on the first project, it's a little trickier, but I chose to put the frame together first, because then I can eyeball it better as to how it's all gonna look once it's in the frame. So you know, you might want to put the wings, here are the wings. These are done with a little bit of a gray thread instead of the creamy whites that the first project was done in. So that's why I wanted white linen. So you might want these up above center just a hair. You might want to, if you wanted to add a name or something on your linen, do that, of course, before you even cut your linen. Just give yourself some room for hooping, and then put the name where you'll be able to, you know, once you cut everything, the name will be in the correct position. So, you know, there's a tip. Just make sure you cut a big enough piece to give you wiggle room, mistake room. You know, you might put the name up a little too high and then you don't have enough fabric for the wings to fit. So you might just want to do a little bit, quite a bit extra, just to play it safe. And then you can, you know, it's not so down to the hair that if you make a little mistake, you have to start over. Okay. So I think what I will do is go ahead and put this together first, and then place my wings where I think they should go. One thing I wanted to show you, I'm not sure if you can see it. See the long jumps? There's no way I can avoid these jumps because the needle has to go from one wing to the other. So it stitches one color. So it does it in 2 steps. Stitches the gray and then goes back and stitches the white. So that means it jumps twice. So it does the gray on one side, jumps, does the gray on the other. So you have a jump there. And then the white again, another jump, and does the white on the other side. So you end up with 2 jumps. Here's my tip. Try to cut it, try to cut those jumps so that you have enough of the thread with a little bit of glue. When it's time to take out your glue, you get a little bit of glue on the back right there where that tail is, and then tuck it back instead of trying to trim it close and accidentally nicking your satin stitch, or not trimming it close enough, and then you end up with this little eyelash sticking out that your scissors just are not fine enough to catch. So my tip is to make sure your tails are long enough, even if they're a teeny tiny long enough, because sometimes, see, like right here, that's a tiny one, but it's long enough to tuck. So when you put a little bit of glue there, you just tuck it back, press it down, and it stays. But if you try to cut it it's like once in a while, you've all done it, I've done it. You go to clip a jump and it's like a little tail and you didn't get it close enough, and then that was your only opportunity because you cut it too close to get in a second chance. So you don't want to do that. Just leave them long enough that you can tuck it over with your finger with the glue, and then you have a nice clean edge and ready for mounting the wings. Okay, so I'm going to put this together. Make sure your hangers are going the right direction to the opening. Okay, don't accidentally put the back on upside down. Okay, but if you're not going to use those hangers, then I guess that's not even a concern. And you only get so many chances with these little things, so don't go back over and over again because they'll break eventually. Not the end of the world because you can just glue it in place, but glue the back in if these break. But just beware, you open and close too many times and they break. All right. So make sure this is sitting in there squared. There. All right. So then all you do, it's really simple, but I know it's nicer to see what was done exactly. And then just put the wings where you want. And you can, this little box comes with these tiny little pins that you can use. I have no idea what I did with those. So let me grab a couple of pins. All right, so I've got my regular pins here. Shape the wings the way you want. These tend to curl like flying wings. Instead of being flat, they actually curl for you. But if you want them symmetrical, just check them out, see if they need a little bit of help. These have been laying here since, I don't remember. I lost them for a long time. I stitched them. I thought I had lost my mind because I couldn't find them. I thought, I know, I stitched that color. And I didn't want to have to stitch them again because it just irked me that I couldn't find my wings. And I finally gave up looking for them. I thought, okay, I'll just have to stitch it again. And I never got around to it for a few weeks. And then one day I was in one of the rooms downstairs and there were my wings with my linens on the table downstairs. They were kind of off to the side a little bit, so I didn't see them. I went in there a million times looking for them. Okay, so you just place it with pins. And you don't want to flatten this. I mean, I don't. It's up to you. I think they need to be dimensional, three-dimensional. So you just want to, I tend to want to have this edge down here down, and the top edge can curl upward. Bring this up just a little. Maybe the edge needs to be up in the air just a hair. So you can just determine where you're going to put your wings. I can't look over the top of this because the back of my head will be in the video. But I think, let me see. That's pretty close. Now, here's another idea. Even if you don't embroider a name, you could put maybe a little memento. Just something that's special to you if this is a dedication for somebody. Or just because you love angels. Maybe you put a tiny little angel figurine down here. From, you know, there's some really pretty things out there. So it's just some thoughts, just some ideas, especially if it's going to be a gift. That would just make it really special. I just think that would be so pretty. So once you know where you're going to put it, there's no really good way to mark this other than put a pin here and put a pin here to denote where, and then maybe, whoops, didn't mean to do that. Put a pin here so you know what part of the wing is going to go between those two pins. Whoops. Just a girl's got to do what a girl's got to do. So that kind of gives me a landmark to put the glue right there. And this little part of the wing is going to go right between those pins. And the glue I use is this is an impromptu video because I've been meaning to get it done. I was going to finish working already a while ago, and I thought, okay, I think I have it in me. I'm just going to do this video. However it comes out, done is better than perfect. That means it'll be finished. It may not be perfect, but it'll accomplish my intent, is to demonstrate to you how these are done. So because of that, it's impromptu. I'm having to look for my supplies, okay? So I'm not totally disorganized like that. It's just that I decided that about 10 minutes before I started this video that I was going to go ahead and just do it. Just do it. Okay, this is what I use. I forget which way the camera's going. Yeah, that's right. Okay, so this is the glue I use. It's kind of thick and tacky. It's almost not quite like a glue gun, but it's not hot, obviously. So, and these glues, they leak and they do all kinds of funky stuff, but I love the glue, so I put up with it. It's waterproof, it's gooey, and it'll stay, and it'll hold your item, and it sets fast. It doesn't soak into everything, so that you don't, it's not like white glue that'll soak into the fabric and then just kind of disappears, and your stuff doesn't stick if you're using fabrics and stuff. So I love this glue, and so therefore I use it. My top, it started to just ooze out the neck over here. I was being very careful with it. So now I'm having to resort to taking off the lid, using something long like a stylus or just something. You bring the glue out and grab a little bit, and you just put it on your project. And I would put a little bit of glue here, and while I'm at it, I would tuck these ends in, these tails. Oh, this one only has one. I would tuck these tails in. The glue will hold it. You just get some of the tiniest amount on the thread or on the back, and just tuck it back and hold it for a second, and it'll stay. And then you're good to go. Same thing with the other wing. And that would be it. And then just leave it alone to dry. It'll be dry in just a couple of minutes. It's a new day, so if the light looks a little different, it's because it's the next day. you know, the legend is that when you see a cardinal, your loved one is near. So someone sent me this adorable, if you can see it, adorable little cardinal figurine. It's tiny, but it's like it's made out of something heavy, like, I don't know, it might be cast iron. It's heavy. They sent it to me in a condolence card. It's so beautiful, and I've had it on the edge of my lamp and in the bedroom. But I was looking for something to put in the shadow box to give you a project idea. And if you're doing this in memory of someone, this might be a good idea to do. Just find a little cardinal figurine or something. And then I actually took a piece from one of my artificial little mini trees that I keep out all year. And I stole a little branch from it because I thought, well, he needs to be on a little pine branch. So here was my thought. I cut the little piece of the branch off, but it had a bunch of needles right here. I had to taper that down, pull off as many needles as I could with my needle nose pliers. I cut a bunch off, and then I took off the rest with the needle nose pliers, because I'm going to tuck this into the corner of the box between the linen and the frame. So I don't want this to undermine my pretty linen and make a mess down there and get too bulky. So what I did was I pulled off all the greenery that was down here. After that, I took my needle nose pliers, and you can see I flattened it. I think you can see. I just squeezed it flat, so to remove even more bulk. And oops. And this has a little bit of a sparkle on it, which I'm not crazy about it landing on my linen, but I can clean that up later. So I'm going to place this in the most aesthetic way that I'm thinking. I don't want it to cover my wings. Hopefully you can see. Yes. It's hard for me. I'm doing this video so that I turn the camera so that it's facing, so that the display that I'm looking at on my phone, I can look up and make sure I'm still in the frame. But when I move around, it's the opposite because I've got it flipped, the camera's flipped. So everything's backwards until I take it into editing and flip it all to the correct, in the correct direction. But as I'm watching, as I'm doing this right now, I'm looking, and when I move, I've got to get used to this. I think I'm moving into frame and it turns out it's moving the opposite way. So I'm trying to keep all that in mind. All right, so I'm still in frame. My wings are down, they're glued down. Just be careful when you're doing the gluing and all that you don't get any glue on the front side of your angel wings, because that's just, it takes away, you know. You want it to look absolutely flawless. The stitching is flawless, so you don't want to mess it up with glue in the front. So just be real cautious when you do that. I forgot to mention that earlier when I was explaining how to tuck those little tails, thread tails, to the back. All right, so I'm just going to tuck this. I don't want this to cover my wings. Maybe it can kiss the edge of the wing, but I don't want it to. So I cut it accordingly because there's not a whole lot of room to tuck in there. So I think that's enough to play with a little bit. So I'm going to tuck this in. That's nice and flat. And this is posable, a little bit posable. There's a little tiny wire in there. And so that's probably how I want it. Now, this is going to be right on camera. I'm going to glue this little guy down. I'm hoping he'll stay. He's pretty heavy. So let's see what happens. All right, so here's my glue. I'm gonna get a piece of paper. I don't want to drop glue on my good fabric here. I'll be right back. All right, a little scrap of paper here. So I'm going to dish out some glue. Okay, here it is. So I just take it out with my stylus. Have to roll it around because I don't want these strings everywhere. I'm gonna put a little glue on here. Oh, I'm getting too messy, but I think I can pull some of that off in a minute. Just don't panic. Don't panic when you're doing this. I'm hoping this will hold. So I'm putting glue on both, where he's going and on him. And this glue sets pretty quickly, but you have time to work with it. So I'm gonna take my finger and just kind of coax some of that extra glue off of there that I got on there. I'm gonna clean my fingers. This way it's good to have a piece of paper so you have a place to. Okay. I think he's gonna stay. I think it's gonna work. All right, I'm gonna clean, once this starts to dry, there. Once it starts to dry, you can kind of roll it off the stylus. So you don't want to leave it like this and put your stylus away. I think this is a stylus. I don't know what this is called. Oh, there's a name. I'm just not remembering right now. So I just clean off the glue. It comes right off and it rolls off your fingers if you don't wait too long. There, nice and clean. So now I can even, if I have some glue under here, it needs to be cleaned up. Oops, I moved him too fast. Okay, I put quite a bit of glue in there, so, and I don't want it to be shiny. I don't want it showing. I'm gonna take some of that off. I don't want any globs showing in the front. And this little pine branch is kind of, it's flocked and has texture and stuff, so I think it's going to do a good job of camouflaging. And whatever happened back there, it's quite okay, as long as it doesn't show from the side here. So there we go. I think that's good. I'm going to put them a little more upright. And once it's dry, I can pose that branch a little bit better. So I kind of have the shakes. I think my coffee was a little too strong today. All right. Okay, I'm gonna stop messing with it because I want to shape my branch, but I'm gonna wait till it dries. All right, so now it's dry. And I actually went ahead and posed my little needle so it wasn't overlapping my wings. And remember, this is 3D, so you're not trying to make them flat. There's a little bit of headroom here, so you can make it more three-dimensional. Bring the branch out a little more if you need to. And yeah, so okay, I'm trying to move it in the right direction so you can see. So there it is, all finished. I love this project. It's so symbolic. It's just a little, I think the cardinal, the idea that the cardinal reminds you of your loved one, and the wings, the angel wings, are just so decorative and pretty to go with it. I don't know which I like the best at this point. It's like, I think I want to do more things like this with embroidery in the background. Gives me more ideas, but for now, these are the angel wings and a really beautiful twist on putting them in the shadow box and adding a little something to it. Yeah, I love this. My husband was the inspiration for the cardinal being included. My husband's not an angel, but he's living with the angels, and I just love this. I love the symbolism, and I didn't even realize until a couple of years ago when someone, maybe it was more than a couple of years ago, just recently in my lifetime, that someone told me cardinals were symbolic of your loved ones, you know, just stopping by to let you know they're there. So this is really special, I think. Links to all these sources will be in the description under the video. Thank you again for watching, and I'll see you next time.